Well, the adolescent girls become the women who are ultimately forming the stability and the productivity of the communities in which we work. So they are an absolute contributing body to all of the work that we do on a worldwide basis.
Increasingly, I've become more convinced, and I know that my team at Mercy Corps has become more convinced that there's some potential magic in focusing on girls as an accelerator in getting more results in terms of sectoral interventions, in terms of building civil society, the voices of youth, and the special voice of girls.
Mercy Corps' mission is to create secure, productive, and just communities, and the way in which we get there is through working through the principles of accountability, participation, and peaceful change.
Mercy Corps works in conflict-affected environments, those impacted by disasters and economic collapse. We work in 23 out of the 40 failed states per the Failed State Index. Mercy Corps has identified 3 global megatrends. Those are the global food crisis, food and economic crisis, the burgeoning youth population, and climate change. So adolescent girls fits into our youth agenda. In addition to our youth agenda, our gender strategy. Not only is youth a global priority for Mercy Corps, 65% of all field offices highlighted youth as a significant issue that they're grappling with.
One of the things about the way we've approached youth in the past, since we work on conflict management, is that we've tended to work mostly with young men. They tend to be a big part of the problem when it comes to conflicts. We've seen them as a big part of the solution. And I think until quite recently, we sort of ignored adolescent girls.
A lot of times when we respond, we're obviously talking to local community elders, talking with people who are known in the community or seen as leaders, but oftentimes the role and issues and concerns of adolescent girls get lost.
One of the things that's emerging that's really, really interesting is that young girls play a much bigger part in helping to resolve conflict than we initially thought. I think we're finding that we've been viewing youth in kind of a very narrow sense, and we've expanded out how we're thinking about youth. It's not monolithic. It's young men, it's young women, it's a lot of different age ranges. And by focusing on young girls and the role that they play in conflict management and the role that they can actually play as agents of peace, I think we're going to make our program stronger and richer and probably more balanced.
On an island called Seram out in Maluku, out in eastern Indonesia, we had this project where we were trying to kind of reconcile and bring the communities back together, and we were doing that through young people. And what we thought we would do is try to make it as fun as possible, so we had storytelling, we had sports events, and things like that to try to get these communities to mix again. While the elders wouldn't mix, the young people would mix. And I remember specifically being out there on this day where we had this event and being present when the girls' volleyball games were happening. So you had this, for the first time ever, these mixed teams of girls who were Christians and Muslims from villages who had recently, not that many years ago, been in terrible violent war with each other. And seeing these girls then split up onto these teams, each team mixed, and then they start playing volleyball. And at first they start out a little bit stiff and a little bit nervous, and before long they're bumping into each other, falling down, laughing, picking each other up. And I'm sitting there on this rock watching this volleyball game with these young girls playing, and I just remember, I'm just like, tears starting to run down my face watching these girls, thinking, these are the ones who are going to be able to bring peace between these villages. These are the ones who are going to take us forward in here, not the elders who are back there sort of stiffly sitting in their chairs, not talking to each other. But these young girls are the ones that we need. In a few years, they'll be in leadership positions, and they'll know what it's like to work together.
There are 5 key components of Mercy Corps' Girl Learning Action Network. Now let's see if I can remember them. The first is to identify and support a global network of girl champions. The second is to ensure that adolescent girls features prominently in both our gender and youth strategies. The third is to really push hard that Mercy Corps across the board collects age and gender disaggregation of data. The fourth is to oversee and administer an adolescent girl opportunity fund. In essence, this is to entice our field offices to experiment with adolescent girl programming and to help them position for greater institutional funds around youth and adolescent girls. The last one is to ensure that we're doing a better job, Mercy Corps across the board is doing a better job of including adolescent girls in its emergency response and recovery efforts, and people understand the vulnerability of working with adolescent girls.
I think for me, working with adolescent girls, as it relates to my work and to Mercy Corps' mission, fits into how we achieve just and secure communities. I work in post-emergency settings, and in order to make secure transitions to youth development, I feel engaging adolescent girls is a key aspect to that, and especially providing safe spaces for young girls in a very disrupted setting after a natural or man-made disaster.
I think the China program started out maybe not having a very clear vision of what was the importance of women and girls in their work, but they knew they wanted to focus on economic migrants as one of the big issues today in China. And what they realized through one of their partners was that there was a real opportunity to focus on women and young girls as a underserved group within this migrant community.
I think sometimes, I know I myself have tended to think about Egyptian youth as a single group, or adolescent girls as a single group. And that's not the case. And I think we're starting to take a closer look at our assumptions about what different types of youth need in different programs and how we can address those issues.
I see my role from a gender perspective as looking at how we're reaching men and women and boys and girls all over the world in what we do. But Lynn's role puts a really important highlight on the fact that adolescent girls as a group have been overlooked by international development for decades.
In Mercy Corps' Girl Learning Action Network, I see myself as the lead girl champion, as the catalyst for change. Mercy Corps is organized around the what. We have a health program, we have agricultural program and team. My job will be to convince people about the importance of the who. Why do girls matter? Why are adolescent girls pivotal in helping Mercy Corps achieve its mission? We all know girls are extremely vulnerable. We also know that there's a significant upside and opportunity in working with adolescents. And I think Mercy Corps is an agency committed to eradicating poverty and building just communities. And adolescent girls have to be part of that.